Alright, so our final player is the SARB, and once again the address to the web page is given over here, and we're going to talk about the mandate and the functions and the data that is available from the SARB. So, SARB mandate is price stability, with an interesting little caveat which says in the interest of sustainable growth. So the SARB is there to manage inflation essentially, but not if it means that the economy goes bust. And we have an inflation targeting Reserve Bank, and the target is currently set at between 3 and 6%. So it's quite interesting to see when the governor releases her statement as to the reasons why occasionally inflation is allowed to leave this 3 to 6% boundary range, and usually it's because of this little caveat here. In other words, we're okay if inflation goes a little bit out of the 6%, because our problem is that if we try to bring it back, we might end up with the economy going down the tubes. So that's what they do, inflation targeting. What then is the function of the Reserve Bank? They are a banker and advisor to the government, and they manage the money in our economy and the banking system. So once again, key things that we're looking at in macroeconomics: GDP, prices, money. Here we go. SARB controls money. So what data do they release and what data do they deal with? They have a lot of economic and financial data, because this is macroeconomics. They also give their own business cycle indicators in the same way that Stats SA does. But one thing that Stats SA does not have is the gold and forex positions of the country. There's other data that the SARB does, that the SARB works with and gathers as well. But what we're interested in is this economic and financial data. So what they do is they publish their quarterly bulletin. Again, here's a link, go check it out. I've got some pictures and things from it. They give information about GDP, CPI, money supply, so here's a new one, and national accounts. So we saw Stats SA releases information on this, Treasury releases information, and the Reserve Bank also releases information on this. So what do they say about GDP? Well, we can see that GDP, if we go as far back as 2007, this is a percentage change. In other words, we're growing, we're growing, we're growing. Oh, recession, we're going backwards. Okay, we're up again, we're growing. Oh, we're not growing very well. Okay, oops. What about money? Oh, we see money supply as well, growing, growing, growing. Oh, collapses and then picks up again. Notice how the collapse in the money supply mirrors the collapse in economic activity. And we will find out later that the two are very much linked. And finally, if we look at our national accounts data, remember how we saw information about consumption, investment, government spending, exports, imports. Here we go. So the same figures. These ones are released by the SARB. These are more recent, 2012 figures. 1.9 trillion rand comes from private consumption. And that's it. What I have decided to do is kind of give you an example of how we would test a chapter like this. How would we test your information, or the information that you've gathered about the South African economy? Well, here's an example question. What does the South African government spend the most on? Can you answer? Public order and safety, education, health, housing and community, defense? Do you remember? If not, come and find the mind map, go through all this information again. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed this section.